This is 80s Revisited. I'm your producer, Jesse Sedgley. And now, your host, Trey Harris.
People, maybe more, trying to get to his sister. Nearly got her, too. But his doctor, of all people, shot him 6 times. Then he set him on fire. Both of them nearly burned to death. Yeah, I'll be glad to see this one gone. Yes, indeedy. Welcome to hell.
Or as we call it, the 80s.
Yes.
And that's why we're revisiting hell, because we're gluttons for punishment. As we are here, the final night of our Halloween Hootenanny of Horror for 2019. And also, we just finished 2018's 4 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. So we've been in a very high-spirited mood as I represent my boy on his return. As we talk about Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. And as we return, I am your host, of course, Trey Harris. With me, as always, the Myers to my Michael, Jesse Sedgley.
Yes, I am. And testing sound.
Better now than later.
Right, that's what I was doing.
Don't need sequelitis for the echo-sode.
We almost had one before. We avoided it, though.
Yep.
From listening.
That's the bullet.
Yeah.
Dodging. But yeah, happy Halloween, everybody. Of course, we're actually recording and filming this the night before on Halloween Eve. Technically, the night Michael Myers would break out and then make his trek towards Haddonfield on his way to find Halloween 1. You didn't know it was his sister. Part 2, they reveal Jamie Lee Curtis is his sister. Part 3 has nothing to do with it, which is why we have Halloween 4, the return. Mm-hmm. Not the reboot, not the remake. Well, I guess you could say it's actually sort of a reboot. Soft reboot of the franchise, bringing, obviously, the face of the franchise, the shape of the franchise, Michael Myers, back into the... right on the fucking cover of every promotional art for the film, which, as a child, scared the crap out of me. Because it's the classic Shatner mask from the first one, not the mask from this one. But the cover, movie poster, VHS cover, that's the Shatner mask from part 1. Scared that if I'm ever in the dark and I look over and I see that poster on the wall or something, I would like, oh fuck, my heart like shit.
I dressed as him one year, probably like
that was a long time ago. Jesus, cool.
Was it really 20? No,
it wasn't 20.
15 years ago.
Long time ago, long time. But appropriately enough, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, originally released October 23rd, 1988. IMDb says it's a 5.9. Rotten Tomatoes, 30% critics, 53% audience, so it's kind of a love it or hate it, between a little more love it on IMDb, a little more even on Rotten Tomatoes. Estimated $5 million budget, opened for 6.8, so made its budget back in its opening weekend, always a good sign. It was number 1 for 2 weeks, until it was appropriately dethroned by none other than They Live, which was directed by creator of the Halloween franchise, Sir John Carpenter. So domestically, it would go on to gross $17.7 million. So obviously, it made its money, despite the fact coming out in 1988, the butt-ass end of the slasher craze of the 80s. By this time, Jason's headed to Manhattan, so we're on the downside.
Right.
So they took 10 years between Halloween 2, almost 10 years from, 10 years from Halloween, the original, to make this sequel, and then 9 years, 78, 81 was Halloween 2, I believe, so almost 9 years pretty much to get to, I don't know math, 7 years from
That's
2.
hard, man. Math is hard.
From 2 to part 4. So this one was directed by Dwight H. Little. He also did The Phantom of the Opera in 89 with Robert Englund. He also was obviously like Seagal because he did Mark for Death. Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee. Speaking of Devil's Night. It's a Crow reference for all you youngins. And strangely enough, Free Willy 2, which... why do they have to do a part 2?
It was so good.
I've seen it once, the original, and I'm pretty sure they free him at the end. So...
you don't know.
Well, was it a dream when the whale... That's why the whale jumps over the kid. It's all in his head.
Right.
That movie just got,
he's in an
tiny
insane
notch
asylum.
over. Yeah. I never watched it after the credits. He's in the padded cell, Free Willy, Willy. And then part 2 is he's out in must really.
That'd be a
Free
weird
Willy.
stinger at the end of Free Willy. They show that.
How awesome! How that instant cult status for like, because at that point in time, I mean, I stayed after I watched Master of the Universe as a child there was a scene at the end. After that movie, I stayed for every single movie I ever saw until recently, and now you just go on the internet. Is there a scene at the end of Joker? No, I don't have to sit through the credits.
Yeah.
Marvel movies, yeah, you need to, because they're going to throw
Always.
these. Well, at least not necessarily for Spider-Man: Far From Home, because that was. But at least the credit scene. But anyway, so this was written by Alan B. McElroy. He also wrote Rapid Fire, Spawn with Michael Jai White, and Wrong Turn 1 through 5.
Oh.
So the writer of the Wrong Turn franchise, which
So
was
he's
obviously
the
way
one.
after this, is the one to blame for Halloween 4. Cinematography was by Peter Lyons Collister. He also did one of my favorite and underrated comedies, Problem Child, Poetic Justice, The Replacement Killers, and I always love to, and whenever I see this pop up on anything on IMDb for a movie we're talking about, I love to mention it. Any Sega CD FMV video game pops up. He happened to work on Ground Zero Texas, so which was about aliens invading Texas, and you were, controller wise using your D-pad as to move your cursor to shoot the invading aliens. So, but yeah, the days of FMV when it was. Not even 480 because back then our TVs were all 480 tube
Right.
televisions, and it was grainy on that. So 320, what's like under 480? I guess 320 by
360, I think.
360, yeah, something like that. Again, I don't know math.
360i, 480i, 780p, 1080p.
It had to be 360 because I imagine it's simply because they have so much video that at that time they had to compress to a CD, which CDs were. I mean, I know what when I was burning CDs, there were 700 megabytes, I believe, or 350. One of those two, I don't remember. So they had to cram them all to a disc at that point in the early 80s, so I'm not sure the storage amount of a disc. No, CDs were 350 a side, and they had the dual layer ones that were 700. I think I'm remembering correctly on that. So,
I mean,
anyway,
it is 320. I don't deal with those small
I just pulled that number
resolutions.
out of the air because it sounded right.
It sounds right, yeah. I mean, they have a bunch of other options, of course.
Yeah.
576i, I think, is one.
I think they just thought, what
There
rate
it
does it
is,
have to be to fit it on
576i.
the CD? And that's what they did.
Yeah.
Some of those games were double CDs, though, so I guess just to make it not completely horrible. Because you're watching it on 480i television, it's grainy on what you're seeing. It's only half the screen. So, it's like those back in the early days of America Online where you watch a video and it's this big on your screen, only the viewers can see it on YouTube. That tiny thing, and then when you drag it big and you have to sit this far away to see it.
That far
That's
from the
how it
mic.
Yeah, well, see, that was giving the illusion, the theatricality for our podcast listeners.
Sure.
But let's see, starring the late and always great and always pleasant Donald Pleasance as them. Honestly, I mean, a lot of people, I guess baby boomers remember him as Blofeld from You Only Live Twice, which is also the inspiration for Dr. Evil. But most people, I think, when you think of Donald Pleasance, most of them remember as Dr. Loomis from Halloween 1, 2, 5, and 6. Although two things come to mind when I think of was called Donald Loomis. Sam Loomis is his full name in the movies. But Donald Pleasance is Fantastic Voyage because him getting eaten by a white blood cell, seeing that scene as a child, scared me pretty much more than anything in Halloween, at least Halloween 1. Because that was terrifying, watching him scream as this fake plastic thing, like the blob, smothers him. I was just like, oh, God, that's creepy, as a child. And then I immediately look over at Raquel Welch in her tight white swimsuit and
And all is well.
I'm not scared anymore. I feel a surge of heroicism.
It's something. A surge of something.
Yes. Also starring Ellie Cornell as Rachel. She also reprised the role in Halloween 5 and appeared in House of the Dead 1 and 2. So her career went nothing but down after this.
Oh, yeah.
Hate to say it, because I actually really like her performance in this. Character actor Bo Starr is Ben Meeker. He was also in Goodfellas and a ton of television. Kathleen Kinnemont was Kelly. She was also in Bride of Reanimator, so she kept it in the horror franchise, much similar to Ellie Cornell did. Sasha Jensen was Brady. Also in Dazed and Confused, the film Buffy the Vampire Slayer, not the TV show, and Ghoulies 2. And rounding out the cast as the great as the man who returns himself. Michael Myers is played in this one by George Wilbur. He would be actually 4, 5, 6. He would be at the time before Rob Zombie's Halloween the only actor to play Michael Myers in 2 films, reprising the role in Part 6, not Part 5. He also he did stunt work in every great movie of the 80s practically. Ghostbusters 2, Star Trek 2, The Beastmaster, Monster Squad. Long list, storied stuntman, and according to every documentary on this film, hell of a nice guy. And I believe he's still with us, so good on him. But yeah,
good for him for living.
Yeah, good job. He's doing a better job than I am.
Good for you.
No, but anyway, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Like I said, this was not one that came on TV a lot back in the day, at least on basic cable, at least in the late 90s or early throughout the 90s, I should say, because my Halloween memories. I saw Halloween 2 before I saw Halloween 1, and here not here, but in Walker, Louisiana, trying to find a video store that Halloween 1 was like. We actually had to go to a town 5 miles over at that point, Denham Springs, and at I forget the name of that video store. I wish I could remember it, but they had Halloween 1. I was like, oh my god,
Movie
Halloween
Connection?
1. It was the one right on Florida Boulevard, right at 4-H Club, in that shopping center.
Oh, that was right next to my old house.
I don't remember the name of it, but that's what it was. But anyway, they had it like, holy shit, finally I can see the original Halloween. Loved it to death, fantastic movie, blah, blah, blah. But my Halloween night memories are always involved. We go out trick-or-treating, come home, and then USA would always play Halloween 2. And they would play it once, then they would play it twice. So, and Halloween 2 was the one that scared, like that was what cemented like Michael Myers as the scariest slashers for me. Because seeing it part 2 at that young of an age, indelible impression. Part 1 is terrifying. Do not get me wrong, and massively made. But Halloween 2 is a damn good sequel. Of course, Carpenter didn't want to do it, so he just wrote it. They let I forget his name, Rick Rosenthal, direct it. He would return to the franchise, making the worst entry that's not directed by Rob Zombie in Halloween Resurrection. With the great line "Trick or treat, motherfucker" by Busta Rhymes, and where he uses martial arts to stun Michael Myers, or as Josh Hartnett says in H2O, Michael Myers. So, but anyway, part 4, part 3 came out. We covered part 2 and part 3 on the podcast previously. Part 3, most people love it or hate it, but it is every year I see more and more and more and more love for part 3, which I think is deservedly so, because I think this series would have worked better as Carpenter envisioned it as an anthology series. Mm-hmm. Each film's, Halloween this, and then it's this, and then you make 4 or 5 of them, and then you have Halloween, the return. Then you bring Michael Myers back at that point. This series is successful. The first one had Michael Myers. Everybody wants to see Michael Myers again. Let's bring him back. But we can thank Sean Cunningham and Friday the 13th pretty much for every year we got to crank out a Jason movie. So producer Mustafa Akkad, rest in peace, like, hey, Michael Myers, I love this guy. I've got the rights. We're gonna start now in 1988 making Halloween sequels. Which had he done it a few years earlier, we probably would have had at least another 2 or 3 within the decade, which would have been really interesting to see where they took the story. However, for part 4 being like I mentioned, technically, I guess, sort of a soft reboot, The Shape Awakens, or liken it to Star Wars, The Force Awakens, as, a lot of familiar ground, but just a little more modern and, changing up some of the story, hitting the same beats. It does a pretty good job. Basically, it picks up. The biggest thing that they have to overcome is at the end of Halloween 2, Donald Pleasance, in one of those badass moments, it's time, Michael, blows him up. Literally, they're in a room, massive explosion. Donald Pleasance is right there at the epicenter. Michael Myers trots out, falls down, supposedly dead. One of the last shots of the movie is the flames burning the mask in his face, so he should not have a face. Yet in this movie, Donald Pleasance has a little scrambled egg on his cheek, and his hand's a little burned, and the same thing for Michael Myers. So, granted, you have to get past that to have this sequel, so I'll give you that. That's my one pass for this film. Like, I get it, they survive, yet Donald Pleasance does not look like Freddy Krueger, neither does Michael Myers. Oh, that would have been amazing. At the end, it turns up when you think they kill Michael Myers, and then he pulls off the mask. It's me, bitch. It's all a dream in Jamie's head, and Freddy's fucking with her. Now that would have been an ending, but nevertheless, we got this, and not again, because I don't want to start saying that again. Listen to the last episode for that bullshit. But this one starts off. They get him out of the insane asylum. He breaks out obviously because the dumbass ambulance technician's like, yeah. And and he almost killed his sister, but good thing like his niece is still alive. And all of a sudden, like, oh, triggered. I mean, even though he's apparently comatose, he heard the word. He was listening in to know. Wait, I have a relative I need to kill. Breaks out, wrecks the ambulance off a bridge, murders everybody, and he's on the loose yet again. There's a great. We mentioned before when we were talking, I believe, about Friday the 13th Part 5. How the person who played Jason in that film in the flashbacks was Tom Morga. In this film, he plays Michael Myers when he's bandaged around the head. But this is also the film that we were referencing in that episode, how Tom Morga was fired because basically I didn't like the way he fell when he got shot. Fall's not working for us, Tom. Yeah. We're gonna get somebody else. That's when they got
buying it.
That's when they got George Wilbur. So now when he's in the bandages, to me that's some of the most terrifying parts of the film. That's creepy looking. It makes sense that he doesn't have the mask, but he's at the garage. He gets his coveralls by killing a mechanic, so he's got over half of his costume already ready for his Halloween party. So then he kills him, escapes. Loomis, despite walking with a cane, is super nimble as he dives out of the way of a truck and dodges an explosion. Hitchhikes to Haddonfield. Michael's obviously already ahead of him. There's a great scene I want to touch on too, where Loomis is talking to this old preacher that gives him a lift. You're watching it right now. It's a great scene with Pleasance and that guy because it's basically Loomis is a nut. It's just as crazy as Michael Myers, except he doesn't have the homicidal. He has the obsession with Michael Myers as Michael's obsessed with killing his family. As Michael is as obsessed as killing his family as Loomis is obsessed with stopping Michael. Yeah. So it's both that. So he's kind of seeing. In this scene, and well acted by Pleasance, good dialogue in this scene. The preacher's obviously meant to be kooky, but you can tell like Loomis is seeing like this is me, like that's me. So it's a great little scene, and otherwise, standard horror slasher sequel for the most part. Mm-hmm. So anyway, then we get to a great scene in the drugstore, Vincent's drugstore, in this film, where Jamie is getting a Halloween costume. Jamie, again, the acting in this film is very good, I'd say overall. There's some weak links, don't get me wrong. But Danielle Harris, no relation. Thank goodness for young me. Not in this film, but go watch the Hatchet series. She blossomed into a very beautiful woman. And I think she's like 4 years older than me. So I think she's got to be 40-something. But lovely, and she's awesome at horror conventions from all the pictures I've seen. Loves, her fans, does a good job at that, which is awesome. I like to see when people do that. But anyway, there's a great. I skipped the. I went over the dream sequence after Michael escapes from the van with the ambulance. There's a creepy ass dream sequence where Danielle Harris is dreaming. She's grabbed under the bed. Michael Myers pops up, and that scene where he like pops up and then looks at the camera. That was a scene that also scared the shit out of me as a kid when I first watched this movie. That whole little dream sequence, which it's kind of getting into it. This is a dream, and it's also setting up the story that here's a candid shot from the first film where nobody had a camera, but like we've talked about on the podcast before, nobody could just get a picture of Jamie Lee Curtis from any other movie at least. Like this, like this shot right here. Oh, Michael's in the thing. Creepy shot. But then she's gonna get grabbed under the bed when he pops up, and it's in shadow, and then the lightning flash and it's lit up. It's like, oh shit! Very very effective dream sequence right here. This gets creeped 8-year-old me out incredibly so.
That's right at the beginning of the movie. By the way, this whole movie is available on YouTube.
So there you go. Don't even have to bother with Netflix or any of the paid services. So if you're looking for something to watch tonight, you could do worse. Yeah. You could do better. You can also do worse. But anyway, they're at the drugstore. So here's what I don't understand about the film. I'm being facetious and nitpicking. They sell in this town 10 years ago. This mass maniac killed 16 people, wearing basically a painted white William Shatner mask. They still sell this mask at every drugstore in town for people to buy.
It's like the Scream mask.
Yeah. But I mean, in that world, they would not sell that. Like, they don't make Pogo the Clown costumes after John, he made his own. Actually, no real serial killers wear masks, trademark masks, so...
But you can wear a serial killer's face.
That's true.
Like, I'm sure you could find a Charles Manson mask or something.
Yeah, but I mean, like, when... God damn it. There's no real world example, but, if... I'm trying to think of anything that I can relate to it, but... Let's see. They didn't sell black trench coats at Walmart after Columbine. Put it to you that way.
Okay.
If that makes sense. You don't. Yeah, we can't sell these right now. So they would not sell that mask there. Now, he gets the mask. It is not. Now it was supposed behind the scenes. It was supposed to be the same mask. They went to Don Post Studios and made the original William Shatner mask. They got the original William Shatner mask, which are flesh colored and blonde hair. Which there is actually one scene in this film when Donald Pleasence is at the school over halfway through it looking for Michael. Michael appears, grabs him, one quick shot, grabs him and throws him. In that shot, it is an unpainted William Shatner mask. There's one scene in this film where Michael Myers is flesh-colored and blonde hair. Nobody caught it. They're literally filming this. He walks out wearing that, and nobody says anything. They film the scene and go home. Like, that's like Freddy showing up without his makeup on. Or like the guy playing Jason has the mask off. Like, oh, we got the scene. Good job. And like, fuck it. Leave it in the movie. Big blooper. But anyway, supposedly, there's also a great documentary on the making of this film on YouTube as well. You can watch for free. Just search Making of Halloween 4. It's got some great behind-the-scenes interviews. Well worth watching. And you can get a lot of the facts, most of which I'm going to repeat here. But you don't get my colorful commentary and all that. So if you find it colorful, good for you. If you find it more monotone, there's other podcasts for you, I guess. But anyway, as a whole though, like as we talked about before during this year with sequelitis, Psycho 2, great idea for the sequel, carrying it directly from the first one into this one, into part 2. The Fly 2. There's really not many other ways you could have gone. Of course, if you sat down in a room long enough, you could think of something maybe better. But that was a good one for that. What was the other one we did? Fright Night 2. Makes sense. His sister comes back, So for this one, this is technically the third Michael Myers film. Because again, Halloween 3, even though he does appear in a commercial, it's not technically, in the Michael Myers canon. So you're on your third one here practically. And you could technically actually call it the second one because part 2, if you want to look at it that way, 1 and 2 are the same night. 2 separate films, same night. If Peter Jackson did it, it would have been, one film.
One film.
Peter Jackson did before Peter Jackson was doing stuff like that, breaking stuff into all that. But of course, the original Halloween, they didn't want a sequel. It was a one and done thing, which it works brilliantly like that. But also I absolutely enjoy this franchise. I like every sequel. And there's something good I can point out in every sequel. Yes, even the Rob Zombie ones. But the cool thing about Halloween is, and there's a great meme going, I call it a meme, but somebody just made a graphic to where like Halloween is a choose your own adventure series. You like the first one? You can stop. You're done. Do you want more of this? Oh, you can watch part 2. Do you want it to be a brother-sister storyline? Watch part 2, 4, 5, 6. Do you not want it to be brother and sister? Just watch Halloween and Halloween 2018. Do you not like the first one? Then try Rob Zombies. Try Halloween 3. Do you want it to be brother and sister, but you don't want to see the niece in 4, 5, and 6 and skip the whole Curse of Thorn stuff? Go to H2O. And then, unfortunately, Resurrection. So you can pick how you want this. You can choose your version of the franchise practically.
Yeah. Make your own Halloween.
Which is kind of cool, but they did not. It's not genius. It's just dumb luck because this franchise got off the rails real quick after this film. Real quick. Which we'll get to at a later date on the podcast because that was the last one made in the 80s because they fast-tracked 5 after the success of this one. And we would not see the white-faced Michael Myers again until the late 90s. But as for this film, they're playing on the whole... Because Jamie is Michael's niece, so based upon part 2, he's got to go kill his family. He's got to go kill little Jamie Lloyd. And that's what's disturbing about this film. He's not after a teenager, a babysitter. He's going after a little girl. Yeah. So this is Freddy Krueger territory without the witty remarks and personality to it. This is just I'm going to murder. I'm here to murder this little girl. Anybody gets in my way.
Yeah.
But we talked before in the other ones how the directing really held the film back. Not so much the case in this one, I'd say. There's some great One thing about Halloween 1 and 2 is that Michael does... he's not like Jason where he's just like, where are you? And he pops out and he murders you. Like, Michael's there watching you, stalking. Like, he's going to catch you at an opportune moment. And they capture that adequately in this film, I'd say. Because some of the creepiest stuff in 1 and 2 is when people are having a conversation. Like, we've having a conversation right now, and then all of a sudden, barely in the background, if you're watching on YouTube, you're somewhere like over here, or the window behind Jesse ruffles and the wind blows and lightning flashes and you see a shape behind it. You know, subtlety like that, to where, like, if you're paying attention, you'll see him back there. You know, and some of it isn't so subtle. I'm not saying every time they show him in the background it's subtle. It's not. But there is thought put into that in here to where there's good atmosphere. This feels like it takes place on a Halloween night. Honestly, none of the other ones really do. 5, they go to a Halloween party. I'll give it that. But, you know, Halloween, he goes after them on Halloween. And this one definitely feels like this is Halloween night. Trick-or-treaters have gone in, and it's, you know, it's more of the night he came home, so to speak. So, but anyway, it plays out really good. I mean, of course, they eventually get in the house. Michael goes straight up Terminator, killing an entire police station. So he goes full on brutal in this as opposed to the original. And but going back to his look, I want to touch on that too, because when I was talking about the mask, like he looks inflated, like he's.
Yeah, he kind of does.
They didn't like how George Wilbur looked. Like they wanted to buff him up a bit, so he's wearing hockey pads under the coveralls. So that's why he has these big shoulders, and he just looks like this. So that, but honestly, if you look at Michael in Part 6, where George Wilbur's playing him again, like I mentioned earlier, much better like look to the character. This just looks like he looks weird because they wanted to be buffer and bigger. Like, well, he never was big. And then Rob Zombie takes it to the nth level, casting a wrestler as Michael Myers, which for his film it works because he wanted him to be a big, imposing, horrible thing. Because I see Nick Castle as Michael Myers in the corner. I'm going to be freaked out. I'm like, oh shit, I see Tyler Mane in the corner. I'm going to be legit like fearing for my life. Because there's no way I could fight off Tyler Mane. That Michael Myers. He would pick me up with one hand and just snap my neck. Nick Castle, I could at least struggle with, like Jamie Lee does in the movie. Might have a chance, but against Tyler Mane, nope. Sabretooth would rip the shit out of me. The original Sabretooth.
Yeah, that's right.
Although Lee Schreiber did a great job.
Yeah.
I wish he was in Logan and not, like we talked about that a couple weeks ago. So. But anyway, so Part 4, I mean, most people, I don't want to offend, I don't give a fuck about offend people, but like, I want to make sure I'm clarifying my statement. I like Friday the 13th. I like the franchise. I like the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I like the Halloween franchise. Like I mentioned before, I can find something enjoyable in all of them. Now, of course, I have my favorites. I have the ones I don't like as much. But, you know, if I'm going to... Of course, if I'm going to watch Halloween, I'll watch probably 1 or 2. I mean, those are the best, don't get me wrong. But 4 is a good follow-up to those. Absolutely. But pretty much after the first 2, and usually it's because of Part 3, which is unjustly so, because you can't judge Part 3 with anything Michael Myers in, because it's meant to be something separate. And honestly, Halloween 3 is probably one of the most horrific movies ever made. Millions of children's heads explode with insects coming out and venomous snakes. That's got a higher body count than Jason, Freddy, or Michael, or Jigsaw, or Chucky, any of them. Like, Halloween 3 killed more children than... what's a disease that kills children? Measles. Most diseases can kill you. But, measles was nearly eradicated, and the anti-vaxxers come out and...
For the Catholic Church. No.
Good, yeah. Blame somebody. Blame Canada.
There you go.
But yeah, Halloween 4, I like this movie a lot. The more I watch it, the more I like it, because they wanted to make a sequel to Halloween with Michael Myers. And at this time, in 1988, again, we're past the hump of the slasher renaissance. This is coming late to the party. But for the time, I think it delivers a pretty damn good slasher film. Now, there is an unproduced script. I forget the name of the person who did it. You can just Google it online for like Halloween 4 original script. I don't know the name. They're much better. There are podcasts dedicated to the Halloween franchise that can tell you all this. Look them up.
Dennis something.
That sounds like familiar.
Dennis Etchison.
Yeah, I recognize the last name.
Etchison.
But the script for that one, it's surreal. It's got, I mean, it's just, it was too ambitious for the time. But it was more about, basically Halloween 1 and 2 happened, but Michael's not in it. It's more like just the town, his evil permeates the town. So it's a very, very unique, it's a good read. If you like reading screenplays. But I mean, the theater of the mind comes into play when you're reading it. But it's really interesting and original. It'd be amazing if they just do that. Like somebody just let's adapt that script and do something in the vein of the anthology stuff. But we already know that's not going to happen because Halloween 2018 was a success. So now we got Halloween Kills next year, and then I think the next year after that, Halloween Ends. So. But it's not going to end because if Halloween Ends makes $200 million again, like part one, the 2018 one did, they're going to do something and bring it back, which I'm all about as long as they, Halloween 5, not so good. Spoiler alert. They're just like, okay, quick sequel. However, as a kid, when you're watching, there was few things were more exciting than watching a horror movie sequel in the 80s. Into the 90s too, with Scream, like it. It was like, oh, I love Scream. Then 2 comes out, I'm like, eh. And then 3, oh. I mean, the sequelitis was in the 80s. Now, of course, the Universal Monsters, they had plenty of sequels to those too. But again, 11 sequels to Friday the 13th. 7 of them, which came out in the 80s. And actually, the 1 through 8 were all in the 80s. So, I mean, again, that was almost one every year for the decade that we had a Friday the 13th film. Which is why the slasher was king. It made money. That's why you had Nightmare on Elm Street. They wanted a sequel. First one made money. Which I'm glad they did because we got part 3 and 4 out of it. And 5 and 6. I like them all. Of course, 6, it's a weak link or a weak finger knife, whatever you want to call it. But still, it's for what it is, it's enjoyable. If you like these movies, of course you talk shit about them. The Rob Zombie one's not my cup of tea. Did not like what he did with the franchise. I appreciate the ambition and the uniqueness of part 2, his part 2. Once you know the backstory, it's a lot more interesting. And because in his first Halloween, they wanted him to redo the first one. Like, Rob, you got to do a remake, which is why. Basically, he was doing it. He did the backstory stuff, which I thought was stupid. That was just me because you don't explain these characters. If somebody is evil, unless they're Magneto, to where you want people to relate to them, you don't have to explain anything. The killer is just evil, and then at the end, it's like, "Why are you doing this?" They either don't say anything, or it's like, "You killed my father," or whatever, or like you turned your back on me in high school, or some little simple thing that just set this person off because they're fucking crazy. That's what's scary. They're crazy. You can't help it. You don't explain evil. That's the number one rule. And I want to say Donald Pleasance even said that on the set of the original Halloween to John Carpenter. We're talking like about maybe like revealing some things or something. I want to say that he's like Donald Pleasance actually kind of mentioned that to him. It's like, don't explain it. Don't explain the evil. It's scarier that way. And that's absolutely true. It doesn't have the effectiveness if you're supposed to feel for this character. Like, aw, he got abused as a kid. Yes, that does suck, but he still murdered 16 people as an adult. That doesn't matter. That makes him less scary. That takes it away. Like, aw. You're not scary anymore. Well, it's still scary if I'm being murdered by you. Don't get me wrong, or stalked by you, but it's not the same. There's now a piece of the mystery's gone. The suspense, all that's just like you just pop that balloon. You pop that red little Pennywise balloon. It's done. Don't explain it. He's just fucked up. Let people read into it what they want to. That's what's genius. That's why you have the ending of Inception. Did the top stop? Did it not? It's how do you read into it? How do you interpret that ending?
This is the 3rd or 4th week in a row where we attack Rob Zombie, right?
Well, I mean, that's because, Free From Hell came out.
He deserves it.
We're talking about it and all that. Like I said, I've seen every one of his films.
Sure.
And honestly, I harp on Rob Zombie. To be honest, I think he has an amazing film in him somewhere. But again, He doesn't need to write, direct, do the soundtrack, do like everything because, in my opinion, Tarantino can do that 100%. But also, I believe Tarantino shouldn't act in his films.
Yeah, that's true.
That's his. Like he's not a
stands
good
out
actor.
like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Oh, Django Unchained. Good God. That's why in Hateful Eight, he's just the narrator. Fine with it. I like that better. It works that way. But Zombie has he's a good director. I think I'd say in some aspects he's a great director. He's a horrible screenwriter. He needs to, here's an idea I have. Let this person who can write dialogue that doesn't involve fucking this fucking shit motherfucker, you fucking fucker fuck.
Yeah.
That's Rob Zombie dialogue. That's absolutely like no family talks like that at a breakfast table. See Halloween 1 where every member of the family's that's 5-minute scene has more fucks than the entire movie of Scarface. Of course, that's facetiousness. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You get the gist. And don't, I will say this, in 3 from Hell, Sheri Moon Zombie was great. Like as far as she goes on her scale. I still don't, she's a decent actress, I'll give her that, but don't cast your wife and everything. Go, direct something, bring your vision to this story, but it's not your story. Make it visually your story, how you see it, but please just don't do the dialogue. There you go, end of rant for Rob Zombie for this week.
There you go.
But anyway, part 4 ends ambiguously. The redneck, posse, brigade, whatever, militia, that's redneck militia gets together. We're going to go kill Michael Myers. Well, they shoot him and he falls down a well. They throw dynamite down it and boom, it's over. No. Now here's where this movie has balls. Because at this point, okay, maybe they did kill off Michael Myers. Of course, it's still ambiguous, don't get me wrong. Especially after he's hit by a car, takes a whole bunch of bullets. Obviously, how can he be alive? Whatever. But then it ends with, they're back, they think everything's fine, Jamie's safe. Well, then Jamie kills her mother at the end of this film. And then it ends. It's a pretty haunting ending. She's at the stairs mirroring the beginning of Halloween 1 with Michael Myers in the clown costume with the knife. And she's holding, she had in this one. And just covered in blood. And Loomis just going, no. Like, it's now the evil has moved. Ballsy ass ending. Mm-hmm. First 5 seconds of part 5.
Take it all back?
The mother survived and Jamie's a mute. She's not a murderer anymore. Spoiler alert. Sorry if you haven't seen this. I should have said that earlier. But again, this movie came out in 1988. You should have seen it by now. Especially if you're a horror fan.
Wow, they could have taken a whole new direction.
Exactly. 5 could have been like them trying not to make her a serial killer. However, at this point in time, you got, again, why is Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell? Because the character is supposed to look Caucasian, but all that hubbub about that, cast this person as this character, etc., etc. It has to be, everything in every movie is made to make money.
Yep.
And Halloween 3 at the time did not make money. Why? Because Michael Myers was not in it. If you look at the Friday the 13th series, at this time in 1988, nobody cared for part 5 at this point because Jason was not in it. So what happened in part 6? Big marquee on the poster. Friday the 13th, part 6. Jason lives. Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. The return of box office profits.
Yeah.
Money lives in Jason's case. That is why. Because they knew it's not about telling a good story in Hollywood. Sorry to burst your boulevard of non-broken dreams yet because they're going to make great movies and they do it because they want to be on the side of right. No, they want to make fucking money. That's why every single movie you see doesn't say Fox Searchlight Pictures or isn't direct to Netflix or even those now. Or you have to go search them out on VOD because they didn't get any kind of publicity. Is out there. It's rare to find those films like that aren't super mass produced simply to make money, and it's mainly because now Disney owns everything. So everything's going to be, that's why the Marvel movies are so formulaic, because it's going to fit this formula. We're going to tie these threads together. We're going to make a shit ton of money again and again and again and again. That's the only reason any of this stuff gets made. That's why when somebody does something, again, I give this movie full credit. Like, that ending, awesome. Ending of Halloween 1, one of the best ever. Ending of Halloween 4, it might be one of in my top 10 of horror movie endings. I don't know. I have to sit down and really think about all of them.
Right.
You know, but what a great, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Great moment. And then immediately in the next movie, 1 year later, nah, bruh, Michael's alive. And that movie, that part 5 is when it goes off the rails for the series. You know, again, if you don't like part 3, you can't say one off the rails of part 3, because Michael Myers, it's not about Michael Myers. You got Halloween 1, 2, and 4. As those 3 tell a pretty good story. If I want to choose one adventure, that'd be a good one. 5, you get into the Mark of Thorn. That's when you start getting to the revenge of Michael Myers, where he's obviously Superman wearing a mask and with no tongue because he can't talk. All that stupid shit. And then in the part 6, which I would say is underrated for just being it's dated by its music, which H2O, a lot of people I see online say, like, oh, H2O is so great. Go watch H2O. Now, any movie that puts a Creed song in it does not hold up well. I'm just saying. I mean, H2O, like, don't get me wrong, when H2O came out, huge deal. Huge. Perfect. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be terrific. We're going to put a wall around the Mark of Thorn. There's not going to be a Mark of Thorn. It's going to be fantastic. H2O comes out. Jamie Lee's coming back. They're ignoring everything after part 2. Okay, I'm in. Absolutely. Okay, the second reboot, arguably, so to speak, of the franchise at this point. Mask looks like garbage. The dude playing Michael Myers is obviously not a 40-year-old or 50-year-old person, because Jamie Lee, I think her character's supposed to be in her 40s, mid-40s maybe. Michael Myers is obviously somebody 20 years old. The mask looks like shit. It's not the same mask, which that's what I always, of course, Rob Zombie came on after this, but, I love the idea that Michael hid the mask in the house, so he knew that when he would come back out, he was going to take that mask and put it on. And that's why it's all ratty and looking in his, which I thought, great idea. Awesome idea, Rob. One of your few good ones in terms of that movie, I should say. And then they basically did that with 2018. Even though latex ages terribly and just disintegrates and falls apart. On a previous episode, we showed what the masks look like nowadays. And that's not, a mask doesn't age like a person, like in 2018, where it gets all wrinkled. And although, nevertheless, in 2018 Halloween, it's a great visual. It looks cool. The mask is aged. It's a movie. Let it go. I'm cool with it. But that's my big, of course, the hockey mask changes for Jason, but one thing that is consistent in that series is that after part 3, where he gets the axe wound in his head, every mask after it, even though if it might change a bit, there is an axe wound in it. After he gets the front part chopped off in part 6, 7, actually 8, I think 8 might not have that detail of the side of his face missing. I think it has the axe wound. Axe wound. Let's see, where's 8? Let's see. Okay, 8 does have it. Oh, it does have a little. Okay, it's right there next to Uber Jason. No, hold on. No. I'm sorry. I'm looking at it wrong. It's up there on the second row. Actually, y'all can't see this on YouTube but yeah, the part 8 one doesn't have it has the axe.
I'm trying to bring it up, but
it has the axe wound, but it does not have the motorboat damage from the end of part 6. Part 7 does, but part 8 doesn't. So, but again. And then in part 9, they do bring back that damage, and a little bit in 10 before he gets turned into Uber Jason.
There it is.
So, but as a whole, they maintain what the mask pretty much, for the most part, looks like. It references everything. The Halloween series, part 2 is the original mask from the original Halloween. It was in a shoebox under Deborah Hill's bed. She was a heavy smoker, so it's disfigured, it's discolored, it looks bad. It obviously doesn't look like it's the same night, but it's still the same mask, and it still looks terrifying. Part 4, they tried to reproduce the mask, failed. The eye holes are weird looking. There's no detail in it to where it looks like that shape, the shape of evil. I mean, it still looks creepy when it's lit, in certain ways. Like I said, the black eye, or you can't see the eyes. That's kind of the key for me that makes it creepy. And then 5, that mask looks terrible. 6, It's better than 5, better than 4, I'd say. And then H2O, it looks like the department store one that you would get. That obviously is just some random ass mask that basically Spencer's Gifts would sell at that time. Horrible looking mask. Same thing with Resurrection. And then I like what Zombie did with the mask, and I like what they did in the new one. To where, like, God, they look so bad. They just get so stupid looking. Especially, God. Oh, man. Sorry, everybody, for the yawn. I was up late last night.
It was seeing these masks.
Yeah, just like, oh,
like,
God.
You had to yawn just not to puke.
Had to keep it down.
Keep it all down.
So here it's coming up on the feed. Right. Of course, you can't see it if you listen, but just Google it.
Yeah, sure.
You'll see kind of what we're talking
the
about.
Evolution of the Halloween mask.
But yeah, as you can see, if you're watching visually, it's just downhill after the first two. And then it picks up at the end. Although Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, where we start seeing his face, not the best idea because that, again, it's not, you don't need to see his face. That's not what we want to see. It's about what's behind that mask. And it's supposed to be evil, which is why evil doesn't have a backstory. It's just there. Why did Michael Myers kill his sister? Because she was there. Or why did he kill his babysitters? Because they were there. That's all you need. So bottom line, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, good sequel. Is it the best Halloween sequel? So a lot of people think so. Bar none. However, I wouldn't say it's the best because I think Halloween 2, again, I've said it before when we reviewed Halloween 2 on this podcast, Halloween 2 picks up literally the second after Loomis looks down and Michael Myers is not there. So if you have to have a sequel to the original Halloween, which is still, that ending is one of the greatest endings of all time, bar none. Fight me if you want to. It is Halloween 2, picks up right where it left off. He's still out there. Fine. The sister angle didn't bother me the first time I saw it. It didn't bother me, and really never didn't bother me at all until they really try to make it about the cult in part 6. But that's a story for 90s Revisited if we ever get that far. So I say check it out. Halloween 4 is fantastic. It's a good one to watch if you want to do a triple feature, 1, 2, 4. Or you can just watch 1 and then 4. You don't even have to watch 2. Well, no, take it back. You have to watch 2 because you have to know it's the sister. Because that's a key point in this one. But usually the 4, 5, and 6 get a lot of hate, mainly again because 3 at that time failed. So bring back Michael. A lot of people don't like it. But I would say the first 4 Halloween films, especially, let me phrase that, 3 and 4 aged exceptionally well. They hold up. 5 is still like, God, there's so many like stinky moments in the film. But again, there's still some good ones. 6, I think that's hated on way too much for what it is. I think it holds up aside from the music. H2O the same way. H2O, just the mask and the music, just, I'm immediately taken back to sitting in the Tinseltown Theater in Baton Rouge in 98 I guess when it came out. And just like, I'm immediately taken back because of the music. And it's just like, this is so 90s. It cannot be separated from that. Halloween 4, aside from nobody has an iPhone, that kind of thing, it has a bit of that anachronistic quality to it, so to speak. There's not, the phone lines are dead. So, that notwithstanding, the music, there's no licensed music in it that I can think of that like immediately is like, oh shit, it's this.
Yeah. Put you in a time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in it from the opening shots, which are fantastic, aside from the mountains in the background. Illinois doesn't have any mountains because they filmed this in Salt Lake City with the Rockies in the background and a couple of the opening shots. Notwithstanding, from the get-go, this film captures the feeling of fall. And I really appreciate that. So good job with the cinematography and the directing, which I think is the only time I've given a movie for sequelitis this year credit for the directing is for this one. Little did a good job, for sure. Although his post-Halloween 4 career doesn't really say much for what he did because there was nothing really stand-out-ish about it. But nevertheless, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, Jamie's name in the original script was Brittany, but it was changed in an homage to, obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis. Danielle Harris wouldn't be. I thought, again, you always hear that horror fans are some of the nicest people. We love watching people get cut up and ripped apart and eaten by animals of all sorts of shapes and sizes and dismembered and all that stuff. But horror fans tend to be some of the nicest people you ever see, as do a lot of the actors. The people that play these murderers tend to be some of the nicest people you ever meet. And so Danielle Harris wouldn't get scared. George P. Wilbur would pretty much take his mask up between takes, like, hey, it's just a movie. I'm just going to pretend to do this, which, I don't know. I'm assuming he's probably a dad. Good dad move. You don't method act with a 8-year-old girl, like, and just, stare at her and, like, have, like, your handler come, like, keep you off of her between takes. You don't method act like that. So good job, George Wilbur. And we came... You can't see it if you're listening, but I'm doing that, almost the world's tiniest violin, little gap. We came this close to having Clarissa Explains It All, involving Michael Myers. Clarissa Explains Michael Myers, because Melissa Joan Hart auditioned for the role of Jamie. And all I can say is thank the Lord for small mercies, because I could not see that. Because like I said, the acting in this is really good. Most of the actors in this are fantastic. Danielle Harris, for a child actress... awesome. Like, I'm really shocked that she didn't have a bigger career from this. Yeah. She did a couple of things. She did Last Boy Scout, always comes to mind, with Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. And then, of course, she returned to horror with the Hatchet series. In that one, they're trying to get another one off the ground, which, great. She's a scream queen, as far as I'm concerned. So the girl who drove Rachel and Jamie to the Vincent's drugstore was actually going to be revealed to be Lindsay Wallace from Halloween 1 and have a larger part in the film as Rachel's friend and helping her babysit, but that was cut for budget reasons. Also, the third unnamed character that's hanging out in the drugstore is actually meant to be Tommy Doyle, who would later go on to be Sir Paul Rudd in Part 6. And of course, in the now sequel to Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, they are bringing back the original girl who played Lindsay Wallace in the original Halloween, and then Anthony Michael Hall is playing Tommy Doyle in the new one. So, going to be interesting to see how they bring them back in. But I like 2018, aside from the Dr. Zartane unnecessary plot point, so I'm excited for the sequels, bar none. But series creator John Carpenter, he wrote a treatment for Part 4 that had a more ghostly psychological approach to the Michael Myers mythos. It concerned the town of Haddonfield and what the effect the events of the first two films had on its citizens. It was rejected by the producers because they wanted a typical slasher movie, and at this point, Carpenter bailed out of the film, making the first one in the series have zero participation for him. Pretty much, Mustafa Akkad bought him and Deborah Hill's stake in the franchise out from them, and Mustafa Akkad this one had complete creative control, which he made some money off of it. I give him that, and we got several sequels out of it that we didn't have before, so that's kind of the good thing. But with this series, like I said, is just so... It's like you have a puzzle in a box with all the pieces and you just dump them out. That's this series. Whereas if you dump out the Friday the 13th series, there's some pieces that are together already in the box that fit, bigger pieces that fit. Nightmare's continuity flows pretty damn good through those, as by comparison. This series is just a mess. They paint themselves into a corner and then they quickly paint over that with something else, and then it ages and the other paints come through and they keep having to repaint and like redo stuff and introduce concepts that are never explained or just left completely open, which is why you had to have H2O at that point. It's like, what do we do? Also, Donald Pleasance died. They had to kind of get away from that character at that point. Yeah. Until, of course, Zombies recast them. I mentioned before the drugstore. It was called Vincent's Drugstore, or just the Vincent Drugstore, that Jamie buys a costume at, is actually seen also in not only The Sandlot as a store that Smalls is on his way to for the first time. It was also used in the TV adaptation of The Stand, directed by Mick Garris. So it's a very... I'm not sure if I don't think it's on a backlot. I couldn't find any information on that. So it's just a popular location somewhere, probably because of its vintage look, to be used for a lot of productions. We're not talking like a whole bunch of years between these. This was 88. Sandlot was 93. The Stand was probably mid-90s. After the success of It, that's when we had all the Stephen King miniseries. Like once a year, it seemed, on TV, we'd have It, Tommyknockers, The Stand, The Langoliers, all that fun stuff. And this is, speaking of Ellie Cornell, love her performance in this as well. During the rooftop scene near the climax where Michael chases them up to the roof, of course, instead of going out the first floor, instead of getting out of a first floor window, everybody always goes to the roof of a house when somebody's chasing them. Yeah. And this is a very, very tall house. If you fall from it, you would die. Although, never mind, doesn't happen to the human people in this film. But there's a scene where Rachel and Jamie slide down. Actually, you're watching right there. Where they like slide down. And there was a protruding nail on one of the shingles. And Ellie Cornell, now the description of it is tore her stomach open.
Right.
She did not tear her stomach open with her entrail, like, something out of a Saw movie or the beginning of Scream where her guts are hanging on. She's screaming, pushing them back in, screaming, "Mama!" That was a Saving Private Ryan reference. But a big gash, had to go get some stitches, but came right back.
Check that stuff.
What's that?
You think they check that stuff?
Some production designer. Yeah.
It's like,
a couple of good whacks will do it.
It's like, where are you sliding? That path? Okay, let's check that path. No, just wing it.
Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, she came back the same day, finished the scenes. So, fucking trooper as far as I'm concerned.
Stuffed all of her entrails back into her guts.
Yeah. Well, she just ate them.
Yeah, she did. They'll go back into place.
Or, she took a stapler and little desktop stapler, duct tape. So I already mentioned there's a scene where there's a mask with blonde hair that appears, which is a huge goof. I still don't understand. George Wilbur comes on the set wearing they give him a pink mask, flesh tone mask to wear instead of the white one, and nobody thinks like, hey, that's the wrong mask, dude.
It's like the scenes in Orgasmo where the stand comes in.
Yeah. You've captured their stunt doubles.
Or that.
That too.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have just not even had the mask on, or you could have at least just, oh shit, we don't have the right mask tonight for this shoot. Maybe it was second unit. I don't know. They talk about it a bit on the documentary. I don't remember the excuse. I think the excuse was, it was late at night. We were like filming for 14 hours. Michael Myers has to have his mask.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point of the movie.
Why would you even have the other one?
Because they had extras just to paint in case But however, why are these already done? So, oh shit, we ripped the mask in this take. Here's the backup. Here's the next backup. For whatever reason, somebody fucked up. I mentioned he wore hockey pads. Wilbur wore hockey pads under his armor, under his jumpsuit to make him more imposing, quote unquote. And then it was the guy that played him in Part 5, Don Shanks, I believe his name. He looks much more proportionate in that one because he was bulky enough. And if you see him, there's I think a Horrors Hallowed Grounds with Sean Clark on YouTube where he goes with Dan. I think it's Dan Clark. Is that his name? Don Shanks. Excuse me. Sorry. To the house from Halloween 5, and like you can see, like Don Shanks is pretty Don Shanks, if I get his name right, which I did, and I corrected myself for no reason. He's pretty built, so he didn't have to have that like bulky look. Even though George Wilbur, if you look at him in Part 6, he's got like, why make Michael this awkward butterball looking character? It does add to the creepiness though, because he looks just so odd. But nevertheless, when you pay attention to it, it's like that's just weird. He looks like the Penguin. With that bulbous body and the arms and legs sticking out of it. There was actually a scene.
Danny DeVito is Michael Myers.
No, I want to be the trash man. I don't want to be Michael Myers. I want to eat trash. I can just see him, Danny DeVito, like, because he's so short with a mask. It looked like the scene from Rob Zombie's Halloween, to bring that up again, in the beginning where the kid's wearing the Michael Myers or the mask, and he's like too small for it, so he's walking down the hallway with this too big mask, and that would be Danny DeVito. And of course, Tim Burton would have to direct this version of it, and Danny DeVito would have a top hat on top of his Michael Myers mask, because every movie that Danny DeVito's in with Tim Burton, he always has a top hat.
Have you done any Danny DeVito movies?
Have you what?
Have you done any Danny
the
DeVito
podcast? I don't think so.
Interesting. Of all of the ones that exist in the 80s.
Well, Twins is a big one, obviously.
Yeah, I guess he was coming up in TV at the time.
Ruthless People's great. Throw On from the Train's hilarious. Of course, he was mainly in comedies, and of course, Jewel of the Nile, which I plan to do. Oh wait, no, yeah, Romancing the Stone, that's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, because I plan to do that a while back, but
but
babies happen and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just funny how it hasn't come up. That's all.
Well, I mean, like you said, he was. The 80s was him, like that was him getting into film.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now he's a household name because of. Let's see. I'm just
Taxi was his breakout, I think.
Yeah, on TV, of course. And then, but I guess because I'm just looking at his box office. Like, what was his big movie that kind of like made him
in the 80s?
Yeah, I mean, Ruthless People was a pretty. It was him, Bette Midler. Throw 'Em On from the Train was him and Billy Crystal, and then I guess just those comedies between 86 and 87.
Quiet growth, I guess.
Yeah, and then just eventually everybody knew him from Taxi, I guess, and then it was just like, oh, DeVito's in this.
Yeah.
Oh, he's actually a good actor. He's funny. Let's put him in this. And Well, because I was going to say Batman Returns, but I mean...
Terms of endearment.
That's more so for Michelle Pfeiffer. That's why. For that film. But anyway, that's for 90s Revisited.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a scene filmed to actually bridge part 2 and 4. It was a flashback to the finale of part 2, and there was a scene where Loomis is being tended to by paramedics. When he sees the burning body of the Shape, Loomis exclaims to the EMS technicians to let him burn! But they douse the flaming body of Myers against the better judgment of Loomis, which is stupid because the explosion in part 2 blows the doors off this room. No human in there. Could Loomis have survived? I guess he could have survived. However, he would not just have this slight little burn on his cheek. Horrible. The burn on his face changes every scene that he's in this film. It looks like an egg in one scene, then it's just flat. Then some scenes almost like he doesn't even have it on there. It's just hilarious to me. But again, every movie gets at least one pass on something for the sake of it being a movie.
Yeah.
So, but that scene would have brought more attention to the fact that there's no way in hell either of them could have survived that explosion. So, this was the first time in any of the movies where Michael Myers is credited as Michael Myers, as in George P. Wilbur played Michael Myers. And the first two, he was the Shape, because he is the shape of evil. It's what he's originally intended to be. Not explained, Rob Zombie. Anyway, when Lewis asked for Sheriff Brackett at the police station, the deputy says that Brackett retired in 1981, and that's referencing the year of Halloween 2's release, in which Sheriff Brackett was last seen. Although supposedly in the new Halloween film, Halloween Kills, Sheriff Brackett's back. So they're good. I think they're doing a good job of having that nostalgia is coming back for this sequel, because they're bringing back the original Lindsay, they're bringing back Sheriff Brackett, they're bringing back Tommy Doyle, not the original, but nevertheless a good actor to portray that character. Should have got Paul Rudd, would have been fantastic to tie it in, or even they still are. I still think it's get Danielle Harris back in some capacity. She could have been Lindsay, although it's cool having the original girl that played Lindsay. However, she's on the Desperate Housewives of Beverly Hills or whatever the hell those shows are called. So she's not exactly an actress. Well, I guess she is. She's on a reality TV show, so she probably is an actress. But that would have Lindsay in it, but it could have been Danielle Harris. So you're tying in the Jamie Lloyd series. You're tying in Paul Rudd. Of course, I'm sure they probably didn't want to pay Paul Rudd to be in it because he's making that Marvel money. Although Paul Rudd's in everything anyway, still, it seems like all these Netflix originals, and he just pops up all over the place. So they probably could have got him. Yeah, I mean, she's not really an actress. Kyle, or I guess Kylie Richards, I would assume is probably how she pronounces it, but it's spelled like Kyle.
I would say Kyle, just to force her to change it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's in a lot of
talk show
stuff. In the Days of Our Lives a little bit.
So, I mean, I haven't seen any of her other stuff, to be honest with you, but I'm just assuming that since she's wasn't in a whole bunch of stuff after that this is, maybe it's just a brief scene and Michael gets her or something for some reason. I don't know. We'll find out this time next year. But anyway, so they said that, as they were working on this film, they had to do something to acknowledge the improbability of Loomis's survival. So they compromised and gave him some burn scars, which we talked about. Oh, I forgot about this. So the reason his scar changed, or the appliance on his face changes, is because his girlfriend at the time kept saying, it looks stupid. So finally Pleasance was like, this looks stupid, do something different. So they did. And they refilmed some of the scenes. However, some of them weren't reshot. So that's why that's actually why the scarring seems to change from shot to shot in some of the scenes. And as I mentioned, Tom Morga early was Michael Myers with the face wrapped up. And then after they viewed kind of the rough cut of the film, the producers, Mustafa Akkad, they thought, this movie's too soft, it's too tame, we need more blood. So they brought in special effects expert John Carl Buechler, who recently passed away, and also the director of Friday the 13th Part 7, for a kind of a day of extra blood filming. So the thumb in the forehead and the redneck getting his head, neck and jaw ripped off by Myers on top of the truck were added in after a rough cut of the film was done to basically art it up, so to speak. Jesse, I've neglected to ask you because I keep forgetting to do that. Have you ever seen this film?
I've seen quite a bit of it today.
There you go. So you've seen enough. Would you care to do a guess for the body count?
Oh, based on what I've seen, 6?
Probably Price is Right, you probably would have lost. I imagine the other contestant would have probably gone higher than 6. 19, including a dog.
Whoa.
So he's 1 and 2 was 16, as we heard in the intro of this film. He doubled it.
I missed a lot then in watching it here on YouTube.
But we didn't see that he massacres a police station somehow.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, and he kills the rednecks in the truck. But this is the third best truck fight sequence from movies that are cherished on this podcast. The second being The Monster Squad with the Mummy, and number 1 being the immortal Ernest Scared Stupid, where he fights Trantor the Troll. Not an 80s film, I know. However, still the best back of the truck fight sequence in a film that I can think of off the top of my head involving monsters. Right. So that's definitely number 1. Always got to bring Ernest into it somehow. Score-wise, I'd give this film a 7.5. I think it's a good sequel to the first 2. If you look at the series chronologically, 1, 2, 1, you could have been done. After 2, you could have been done. 3, a new beginning. Pardon the Friday the 13th pun. It ended. You didn't need a sequel to part 3 of people cleaning up kids' brains and insects, where they needed you would have, your business would have exploded.
Yeah. Because
all of us people that had kids get their heads exploded with all the insects and bugs, you have to go exterminate. So you'd be making bank off that tragedy. But so at this point, they want to bring Michael Myers back. This is what they could have gone obviously some other ways. But for what they went with at this time, chronologically, it's a great sequel in my opinion. I don't think it goes off the rails really until after this one, where they have the ballsy ending of this one and then pretty much say, nope, we got to have Michael Myers back. We can't have somebody who's not Michael Myers doing the killing.
Yeah.
So we have the revenge of Michael Myers, then the curse of Michael Myers, then H2O, then Resurrection, then Rob Zombie. Now this new trilogy. Mm-hmm. So, however, I'm not complaining, because I like the fact that they're still making at least one of the slashers, classic slashers, is still getting their movies made. So, which surprised me, because with the Friday the 13th rights issues going on, like, oh shit, Sean, the new Halloween movie is now the most profitable slasher movie of all time. We need to get a Friday the 13th movie out ASAP so we can make $200 million. They don't care. They're still going to fight over this other stuff. Strike while the iron is hot. In a strange enough inverse way from the 80s. In this, hope, it isn't happening yet, I'm hoping, but this sort of slasher is starting up again. 2 announced sequels to Halloween. That means we're having 2 classic character slasher movies come out in the next couple years. Jump on it, Nightmare. Get on it, Friday the 13th. Don't dilly-dally like this series did, releasing a sequel in 88 and missing the train. You got to get on it now. We need a new Friday the 13th, and it's going to be the 13th one, so make it a good one. Nightmare, Robert Englund said after the Goldberg episode, after doing that one, he's like, maybe I do have one more in me. Do it now before he backs out of it, because that's the problem with Nightmare. I understand their hesitation, because Jackie Earle Haley, I think he did a great job, but you can't. That's a big glove to fill.
Yeah,
he had 2 fingers in that 5-finger glove trying to fill. Great job, but to follow Englund's portrayal, they need. I don't know. I can't even name who they could do. Englund said he would like Kevin Bacon to do it. I can see that, but I think that would be a little bit more of the Haley route. Like, that would be a scarier Freddy, but Englund's Freddy it operates because he's funny and then he's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I know there's somebody out there that can do it. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. McAvoy, maybe, because
Split, he's shown his size,
to where. But has he really done comedy? Because I think that's a key point of it. Robert Englund is a funny guy. He can make you laugh, and then he can scare you in the next second, and that's the key. There's a lot of people that could do it, I'm sure. But if you're going to bring back Nightmare without Robert Englund, that I do not envy the actor who they cast. But I know there's somebody out there that could do it, so we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see. Although Robert Englund said he thinks he could do one more. And there's actually, I don't know if it was a abandoned script for one of the sequels of Nightmare or something. I heard it on another podcast. But there was an idea for a modern reboot of Nightmare. So basically the overall premise is almost like a horror anthology movie. But it's basically kids in Springwood talking about, hey, like, they're talking about the Freddy legend. Like, one kid tells a story like, no, Freddy's like this. And then you're watching the segment. Like, it's like, that's not, my brother told me it was like this. And then you watch that segment that's different Freddys. Sort of like the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, because Heath Ledger died. So you have these different, they write in how he's changing his appearance. But then one kid, when the littlest kid or whoever's like, well, my dad or brother said it was this, or like maybe an old man's walking by and like, oh, you kids are talking about Freddy Krueger. Well, this is how it really happened. And in that story, then it's Robert Englund.
Yeah.
So that, and then like, that's sort of the wink at the camera, like at the end of Freddy versus Jason, where it's like, oh, that is the real one. And A, great way to bring back the franchise, I think. B, a great send-off for Robert Englund as the character to like then open the door. And then also, guess what you get to do? Depending on how many however you do the script, you can have 2 or 3 other people playing Freddy as well to see which one you can get. You basically can kind of cheat for who would be the next Freddy by casting some big names as Freddy in those other roles to see which one tends to, which actor or actress. Could be Frederica. It's 2019. You could do something with it. I'm open for it. You just have to cast it well. It's about the actor. Nightmare on Elm Street is a successful series. Well, the first one was successful because obviously it was original. It's fantastic, imaginative, well acted, well directed, etc. The sequels are good because of Robert Englund. Absolutely. And of course, Craven comes back for 3, comes back for New Nightmare. They're great. He's got some good stuff. But Freddy was the slasher that people went to see, the slasher. You go see a Jason movie, and Crispin Glover is an annoying motherfucker. You want him to die. In Halloween, they try to do character development, but they still line up the fodder because he's going to live and he's going to die. You go see a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, you do go to see the kills because they're imaginative and creative and creepy, but you also go to watch Robert Englund eat the scenery like a fucking Thanksgiving turkey because that's what that character is. That's the enjoyment in a Nightmare series. That's why it's so different. He's almost not even a slasher. It's almost wrong to put him in there. I mean, it is correct. Don't get me wrong, but it's so he's the only one that talks. Unless you want to count Billy and Black Christmas, but that's a one-off movie. See, Black Christmas is a funny series. Speaking of that, quick tangent. Black Christmas, you have the original, fantastic, creepy-ass movie. But then you have a reboot. And then this year, you're getting another reboot. So both sequels to Black Christmas, there's 3 in the franchise. Every one of them's a reboot. Aside from the original. But... So in terms of like the slasher craze, like the Universal monsters, exact opposite. All of them talked except the creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm going through my head. Frankenstein, yes, he talked. I'm just making sure I'm not misspeaking. The classic ones, pretty much. The creature was the only one that didn't talk. The Wolfman didn't talk when he was a wolf, but he had a human side, so that counts. If anyone wants to try to get me on some semantic bullshit, but in the 80s slashers, only one of them talked. In terms of the big 3, Chucky talks, yes, but that's almost a product of Nightmare. Pinhead talked, but so you got a couple that can talk. I'll give you Pinhead, but Freddy was the one that he was the big one. Like he was the one that had the first toy line, and the hotline to call. And I'm going to tell you a story, kid. Get your parents' permission first, or I'll gut you, bitch.
Yeah. Can't say that till I get the permission.
Yeah.
Though.
Call the line first. You know what I mean? Freddy was an icon. He was Jason was an IP, so to speak, in terms of a film franchise, but Freddy had the licensing. Freddy was the Star Wars of slashers. Not to turn this into a Freddy Krueger podcast, because there's plenty of those already. But nevertheless, Halloween 4, get back on track. Unfortunately for this franchise, they didn't, again, late to the party. But nevertheless, 4 was a great, in terms of the quality of the slasher films at this time, probably the best in a long time, in a couple years at least, if you take into consideration the Friday the 13th films that had come out. And Nightmare 5, I think it's underrated, still a good one. Go to Nightmare on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. Was that 80? I think that might have been 89.
89, it was.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, we had 4 at this point. So, Nightmare was going strong at this point. One of the few. Nightmare was kind of late, too, because 5 was 89. 4 go down. It should be a little bit lower on the screen. Right? Yeah, I mean, they were like almost back. Yeah, they were. Nightmare took off in the mid to late 80s. Friday the 13th was the entirety of the 80s. And Halloween was the tail ass end of the 80s. So Halloween 4, for its time, Friday the 13th had grown stale, although, even a bad Friday the 13th film is still fun to watch, in my opinion. Same thing with Nightmare and Halloween. So, unfortunately, I wish our boy Michael, the scariest slasher to me, based on the first 2, and this one, to be honest, again, like I said, there's some creepy scenes with him, for sure. Just came, maybe the music was too loud at the party. Nobody heard him knocking till finally somebody went outside to puke, opened the door. There's Michael. Oh, Mike! Come on in, bitch! Jason's in the punch bowl drowning. That would be a party. Pinhead just sitting there with his chains at the karaoke like, I'm too sick. That's not even an 80s song. Karma, chameleon. I don't know. I'm snowballing here. Chucky's doing something stupid. I don't know. But anyway, this came out October 23rd, 1988. In the real world, the same day, there was the Phillips disaster in Pasadena, Texas. What's the Phillips disaster in Pasadena, Texas, you may have just said? Well, let me tell you. It was a devastating series of explosions and fires on October 23rd, 1988 that originated in the Phillips Petroleum Company's Houston Chemical Complex near the Houston Ship Channel in Pasadena, Texas. The initial blast actually registered a 3.5 on the Richter scale, and the conflagration took 10 hours to bring under control, killed 23 employees, and injured 314 people.
Wow.
So it was pretty bad. So, but luckily, hopefully you were in a theater and not at the Houston Chemical Complex that day. But unfortunately, 47 people were. At least, because those are the ones that got hurt.
Because they had to work.
Yeah. Unfortunately. So, nevertheless, horrific. Sad to have some, that shit happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Back to the Future. I haven't seen anything new. Just watching horror movies because it's Halloween when I can. And that's about it for the Back to the Future part. I wish I had more to say.
Wow.
There's ain't much to say.
Yeah. What am I doing?
Well, you saw Little Monsters at the Halloween party. How'd you like it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't get to pay attention to it?
No. There were so many people there, and they weren't into it, I guess. So, and plus, like, that door kept getting left open, so all the karaoke music was drowning out the sound out there. So I just got up, closed the door, and I just stayed inside after that.
I probably left the door open a couple of times, so I'm sorry. I was drunk. Way drunk. Let's see. Don't forget our other friends in the podcast world, the Something Something Podcast Network, and our other fellow friends on Twitch. The popular channels Melissa Sings and Hard Board Games.
Yep.
Which just finished streaming just a few little minutes ago.
Yep. So also Hard Board Games too. Go see me over there. I'm on all the time.
There you go. And of course, you can catch us here on Twitch live, on YouTube later, and then as always, where we were born and raised, on iTunes.
That's right.
And then, so that's pretty much, that rounds it out for Halloween Horror this year. On time. As promised.
Only one episode behind the planned amount of episodes.
But hey, we still didn't miss a beat. We had the Echo-sode, rolled with the punches. We'll just save that other one for another horror thing to work it in.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line. But next time, it is time, once again, for the 100-character battle.
Oh, wow.
So
that soon.
Well, I mean, this is episode 220-something.
Oh, we're supposed to do it 20 episodes
well, not 20, because, of course, we did our 100 episodes, or we did like 99, and then we started it, and then we had that late entrant, because we wanted to have that Christmas episode with Clark Griswold.
Sure.
And then, of course, we had the 5 or 6 episodes of that.
Yeah.
And then so and after that, I kept track of the characters until we had 100. And then we had to finish Halloween Horror, do this year's Halloween Horror. So we're going to begin the 100-character battle. I got them already randomly seated and everything. I want to get a copy of that Super Fight game. Mm-hmm. So if you know anybody that has it, that we can borrow it, because I don't want to spend $20 on a game I'm only going to use on the podcast.
I had it here. It's just like a week ago.
So, like, that you had it? Or I mean,
it was in a free pile. I guess someone took it.
God damn it. Well, the reason I wanted to do that because like
Melissa moved it.
Because you can like draw cards to pick like a battle, like an arena or something like that, and then like even weapons to where like instead of like we did last time.
Oh, random draw.
Just to take the fun out of. I mean, not the fun, and take having like the shark from Jaws obviously just can't appear in an arena without water.
Sure.
To where then everything is the seating is random, where they're fighting is random. If there's any weapons laying around, it's random. We just set the stakes as this person is just thrown in here, and then they're fighting here, and there's this laying around, and then we speculate from there.
I would imagine there would be something online with that.
We'll have to look into it before the episode. Because I don't want to buy that game that I'm never going to play.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not a great game.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I just need random cards of locations. Or pretty much, or something like that. That was the idea, at least in theory. We might try it out the first time, and it might completely fail.
We could probably find a generator for random locations and stuff,
like an battle arena generator or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out for the next episode, though.
Sure.
So place your bets. Everything's gonna be randomly seeded, and I think last time we ended up going 6 episodes with that, maybe 5, doing that. So we'll basically just do that. I don't have the seeding with me because I haven't looked. I just seeded it randomly, and then I immediately put it in the folder face down. So everything's going to be completely new for everybody as we read it and go through it. Oh, so what's this? We're looking online.
Not it. This is some other thing. I don't know what this is.
That's like a D&D. Like you walk into a room. It is electrically or magically charged. It's cavernous. You see abandoned human belongings and short pines nearby. Dirt and small stones litter the ground. You see no water. This is a DM cheat thing.
Right.
Like for describing an environment.
On the abandoned battlefield. A scattering of stones to the left, a larch to the right. Moss covers the ground near a pond.
No,
all generally
not going to work for this.
Random. Yeah.
But we'll figure something out. So again, nothing to watch for next week, but I don't have it in front of me to tell you the movies that we started with, but nevertheless, we'll just all check it out together next time. Yep. So until then, happy Halloween, happy Devil's Night, happy Day of the Dead, happy All Saints Day, whenever you listen to this in the next couple of days. I'm going to be trick-or-treating my daughter tomorrow night. It's supposed to be really fucking cold.
Yeah, down to 35.
Which I'm excited for, but I don't think it's ever been that cold. And we've had Violet out, so Autumn's freaking out. Like, I gotta have all this on her. I'm like, she don't look like little brother from A Christmas Story.
It was bound to happen eventually.
Oh, of course, but we don't usually go outside with her. If it's cold, we obviously just wouldn't go outside with her. But it's obviously you have to go outside for trick or treat.
Sure.
So
unless you go to those trick or trunk where people just have it in the trunk of their cars or something.
Yeah, that's called a drug dealer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or a dead hooker salesman.
I'll take some booger sugar.
I've never heard it called that.
Really?
That's hilarious. Booger sugar. I'm going to use that in a sentence tomorrow. I like that. But so, next week, everybody, get ready for to think in your head of these characters that are going to be fighting. It's going to be, last time was pretty interesting and entertaining and a lot of fun, so I'm hoping this one will be. Of course, we won't have as many icons in terms of characters as we did last time in our first 100 episodes. There are definitely some clear favorites if we were placing Vegas odds, so to speak. If you just look at any of the last 100 episodes, you'll get an idea. So we'll have to think of things about that. But nevertheless, it'll be a good time next time here on 80s Revisited. So until then, I remain Trey Harris,
Jesse Sedgley,
Cowabunga, and happy Halloween.